here. In order to finish wiring this up, we need to adjust our app.php file to add this controller attribute. So let's open our 25th step, which is called adding controller to route definitions, and it's for the app.php file. Go ahead and copy this entire code and paste it over the code that's currently in the app.php file and save it. So if we compare this with our last app.php file, that would be in step 22. I'm going to drag these two over to our file comparison tool. You see, originally we did routes add, we added the name of the route, we passed it a new instance of the route object, and that object took two parameters. The first was the path, and the second was any defaults for the path variables. And over here we're adding the same thing. We're doing routes add, we're setting the name to hello, we're instantiating a new route object, we're passing it hello/name like we were before, but now we're going to pass some additional values in this second parameter, which is an array. We're going to set a default for name, which is world, which is the same as what we had over here, but we're also going to pass controller. Now this next part looks a little confusing because what we're setting for controller is a function. And if you've never seen this before, where you're setting a function as the value for a variable, it might blow your mind a little bit. This is called an anonymous function, or a closure. And oddly enough, it's something that we can pass to call user_func. We could also pass it just the name of the function like we're doing up here. So this is a commented out example of the same route, but instead of defining an anonymous function, we're using the name of the function. This seems a little simpler and straightforward, but it's less flexible. With this one, we could do a couple of things in this controller before we run our default controller, and that's what we're showing down here in this example. So this again is another commented out version, and in this version what we're doing is setting an adjective as well in our attributes. We can run render template, and then we can adjust the headers before we return a response. Now after looking at this, you might start to think, it kind of would make sense to pull this out into a separate function or a separate class altogether, which is what we'll do in the next steps. But we're building up to that by showing you what you can do here inside of the route definition itself. At the very bottom of this file, you see us adding the by route here, which is a lot simpler. Before, we had just the name of the route, and then we set up a new routing object with by as the path. We're doing the same thing here, except now we're passing a second parameter, which includes an array of key value pairs, and we're setting the controller to render template. So now we've updated our front controller, and we've updated our app.php. We should be good to test this. Let's jump to the browser and refresh our by page. All right, it says goodbye. Let's test hello, just to make sure. It says hello world, and if we do /Chris, it says